Okay, we left off. We had we were having different targets, so we're able to determine the difference between where our crosshair is and where our projectile actually is going to go. And you can see right here, and they're saying different targets, different targets, different targets, and then it clears up and says, oh, we're hitting the same target. It clears up there too. We set that up so everything works. Does not appear to be bugs at this point. So we'll continue forward. Now we're going to set it so the crosshair actually does something differently. So we can go ahead and get rid of this check since we know that we are good. This is located in the event graph of our third person character. This is the different targets thing that we just did in the previous tutorial. So I'm going to delete that over here. So before we start changing anything on the crosshair, we want to actually check if it's valid, that if it's there. So let's right click and get our crosshair reference. Get crosshair reference. And we made that in a previous tutorial. We want to check if it is valid. Okay, if it's valid, then we want to check whether or not we have different targets or not. So get our different targets, get it, drag it off here and say branch. If it's valid, then we want to continue on. Now, the next thing we're going to cover, we're going to do this off of a timer. So a timer basically is like it sounds. If you set the time, and then based off of something happening, it waits that time and then fires an event or fires a function. So let's say you set the timer for 3 seconds. Then 3 seconds, let's say after you fire a gun, it's going to do something. So you fire the gun, it goes 1, 2, 3, and then something happens. It could be somebody yells, I don't know, whatever. But we're going to do our timer on if we have different targets, then we're going to turn the laser on. I had it where it was immediate, where the laser would turn on as soon as you had different targets, and that was annoying. And the crosshair would dim when you had different targets, which was annoying too. It would flicker. It would happen, you know, because it happens a lot. But if you delay about a half a second, it seems more like it's telling you, hey, you might want to consider that your crosshair is not exactly where your projectile is going to hit. And so that's how I prefer it. You could make it immediate, do whatever you want, but let's just get rolling with this. So I'm going to do a new variable. I'm going to call it, this is going to be our dim cross timer. Okay, and make it a timer. They call it a timer handle. Now the timer handle isn't actually the timer. This is confusing. It is the variable that holds the timer reference. So we're going to add it in there, but like a lot of things, we're going to have to work backwards. So let's get our reference. Now we haven't set it yet, but the program is going to read it as if it has. So you'll see what I mean as I go. So let's get our dim crosshair timer. So first of all, we want to check if it's active. Is timer active? Because that's going to change whether we activate or not activate. If the timer's already running, we don't want to start it or send it another signal, because it could either cause it to, well, first off, it'd be redundant code. You don't want to do that. And it can also cause problems with how the timer works. And I just double-clicked this, which might cause a massive crash. I don't know. See, this is one of the things. If you have Visual Studio plugged in, it'll load that up. So I'm going to try and exit out. It's on my other monitor, and hopefully I don't crash anything. Everything's still working, please? Okay. I hate that. Anyway. So, dim crosshair timer. We want to check if it's active. Press B, left click. We get our branch. Okay. If it's true, or I'm sorry, if it's false, if it's no longer active, then we want to actually drag off here and say set timer by event. You could choose function, but we're going to use an event. Okay. At this time, get your dim crosshair. Get it out here and set. See, we're going to have this. You probably don't see it because my face is covering up part of it. This stupid thing says loading Visual Studio. It's going to be there for like the duration of this video. Sorry, that's just a bug with Unreal. Anyway, so set the dim crosshair timer. This is when it actually gets the value of the timer. Now it's representing the timer. I know it works backwards. It's kind of like checking if something's valid. It's the same idea. Anyway, we're going to set this timer for 0.5 seconds, and we're going to ensure that this is unchecked because we don't want it to loop. Then we're going to make a custom event. Right-click, custom event. It's not going to be replicated or anything, and we're going to call it dim cross for dim crosshair event. And we're going to connect them up like this. So it's it's going to go, okay. I see here, based off your calculate shoot actual, that you do in fact have different targets. Is the dim crosshair timer been activated? Well, if it hasn't been activated, if that's false, let's go ahead and start it, okay? And then we're going to do something. And this is going to be where we make a function that it is going to set the crosshair color. So I guess we could just go ahead and get the function out there. Just remind me to actually fill it in. So function, we're going to say set cross, set crosshair color. I'm going to combine that or compile that and then go back into the event graph. And then we're going to say, where is it? Set crosshair color. Boom. So this is going to connect here, and we can even connect it here. It's an empty function right now, but that's just to remind us. So if stuff's not working, I'll be like, oh yeah, I actually got to make it do that. Okay, so let's back up here a little bit. Now, there's going to be a situation where different targets is false. You're going to want it to do something. So we're going to get our dim crosshair timer. I'm going to get it. And we're going to say, you know what? If you had a timer running, I want you to clear and invalidate the timer. I want you to reset it. Because think about it. Basically, the saying, we don't have different targets. So everything's going to be green and not dimmed. So that means you, for a moment, had you guys were both on target. Everything's great. Everything's green. Then you go off target. You're going to want it to wait the full 5 seconds, because say you were in the middle of that 5 seconds when you were off target, went back on target, and then went off target or back off target again, right? It would have used some of that timer. And then, so let's say you used half the timer, there would be 0.25 seconds left. And that would mean that when you went off target again, you would only have another 0.25 seconds before the laser would kick on. So it wouldn't be a consistent, on-off rate, which is what we want, which is kind of a cluster to think about. But once you see what I'm building, it's going to make a little more sense. So anyway, basically, if you activate a timer and you want it to reset, this is how you do it. Clear and invalidate timer by handle. And then we're going to want to call our set crosshair color again. Okay? And these are going to be different based off of an input that we're going to put. So we're going to say for this one, it's going to be dim. For this one, it's going to be green. Or, you know, you could say it's going to be grayed out on the dim, and it's going to be green on here. So compile, save all. So since we haven't set up these colors and whatnot, it's not going to show anything at the moment. So first off, I got to try and remember how I make a color. So let me press variable, and we're going to say, I don't know, green cross color. And these things, click here and just type in color. And you want to have, I believe it's linear color. Okay, now here's a point where I got jammed up real bad, and I want to make sure you guys don't get jammed up. Notice how the timer and the color are very similar in color, if not the same. They're, depending on your monitor, I think one monitor showed it a little different. Either way, don't get jammed up on this. These are totally different things, okay? And you can see once you compile and save, you'll see over here that you're going to get a color popping up. And if you click on, over here in the right hand corner, if you click on this, you can select our classic green crosshair color. Press OK. So now we've set that crosshair color to be green. So drag it out, get it, and we're going to input it into this function here. Let's make another variable. I think it's Control W. Yeah, Control W duplicates. So we want this to be our dim cross color. Let me just compile and save. And just go to, like, I don't know, the white, and kind of make it that gray color. And then go down to your the A right here and go, the alpha goes 0.5 and tab, and that's going to make it kind of transparent. So it'll be gray, but you'll see through it just a little bit. And press OK there. Okay, and then, so here we want green. Here we want our dim. Okay, now compile, save. I've never really worked a function like this. I think I can just do the input. Yeah, new parameter, drop down and say color. Go color linear. See if it lets it in there. Yes, it does. Good. Under that new parameter. And you can say, like, color to change to. Color to change to. So does that make sense? So dim color, color to change to. And then over here, it's green. And since these are the same functions, this is a great thing about functions. You can call them over and over again and save you from recoding the same thing over. So the code in here is always going to be the same, except for this one little input, which is going to be the color. So compile, save all that. And then we are going to go ahead and go inside of this function and write it. Okay, so here's the deal. I don't know everything. And I couldn't figure out how to check if one color was equal to another. So this is kind of hacky, but it works. You can, somebody out there knows, because there's somebody's artist out there that's learning Unreal because he wants to learn the programming side, but he's probably already an artist and knows all about his textures and everything. So I'm not afraid to admit when I don't know everything, and this is one of those situations. So here's how I'm going to do it. And somebody can leave in the comments to tell me how to do it right. I drag off of here. I type in break. And then I get all my colors this way. So let's go to our crosshair reference. Right click. Get crosshair reference. Okay, and then let's just call the bottom. Get bottom. This represents the little bottom of our crosshair. We only need one because we're just checking to see what color it is. If it's green, then the rest of the crosshairs are going to be green. If it's gray, then the rest of the other ones are going to be gray. Okay, does that make sense? Then we want to drag off that bottom, and to get the color, you type content color, get content color and opacity. Okay, and this is the same as this. See, all I wanted to do is check if this was equal to this, and when my thought would be drag off of here and say equal, but then I get this. Maybe it's one of these context sensitive Maybe it's equal enum. I don't know. That wouldn't be it. Anyway, turn that back on. I'm not going to experiment with you guys here. Just break. I know somebody's laughing at me right now, but I just want to get this in. So how I typed these, I just went off of here and said equal, and you want to do an equal float. And so you'd compare this to this, okay? And then we're going to go down the line. So Control C, Control V, Control C, Control V. All right, and then G and G, B and B and A and A, and it's checking all these values, and then just type in and bool, press the plus pin 3, let's see, there you go, like this. And so basically it's saying, hey, this, the R in here, is it equal to the R on the crosshair? The R we're asking it to be, is it equal to the, you know, the R on the crosshair? If it is, B, left click, branch, and do something depending on it. And what this will do is it's going to check what color it is, and if it's already been set to the same color, we don't want to make the function call it all over again. It would be wasted code. So we're trying to be efficient. I know it's hard to believe with this mess I just made here, but it's checking before it goes and changes the color. So if it's already green, it doesn't need to go, hey, change it green again, because that's going to be a lot of functions to change, because we did each of our crosshairs as a different thing. So get a crosshair reference. You'll see what I mean. So you drag off here and you get bottom, get here, bottom, get left. See, and you could change colors based off of each one of these if you wanted. Get right, bottom, left, right. What's next? Get top. Okay, and then you could say set color and opacity, set content color and opacity, like this. Duplicate, Control C, Control V, Control V, Control V. Hook it up each one to the target, to its own target, I should say. We only want this happening if this is false, which means if they're if the color hasn't been set yet, or if the color is different, right? And then don't forget to plug in your color, which is what we brought into this function to begin with. So that'll go into the color node over there. All right. Wang, and here. Okay, so each one appears to be hooked up properly. Okay, and the color should change if there. But this is fairly complicated, so I'm guessing there's going to be some sort of weird mistake. So go to the event graph. Let's check if this resembles my notes, because it's been a minute. It looks kind of like them. I guess. Let's just test it out and cross our fingers here. Okay, so... oh, look at that. It's color, and it's not. It's color, and it's not. It's color, and it's not. And I can't tell, but there appears to be a delay when there's not. Okay, so the delay only happens when it goes to not, and I guess that's a good thing, because when you're on target, you want it to be green. So, so when they're different, it takes just a half a second. Now it's flashing on and off because that character's moving, which does change where your projectile would be if you fired at this given point. So let's say you move off, it's both going to be green, and then you go like this, and it's on. So this would be handy. I don't know. Let's say you're going up on some stairs, and you know there's a dude. He's hiding from you. He's camped out, and you know you're going to hit him. So you're going to come over here and you're waiting and you're waiting and you're waiting, and you think you see his foot and you're going to wait for it, and he's coming out and you're going to fire, but wait, your crosshair's not green. That means you're going to hit this. You're going to hit the stairs, and we'll have a laser there instead of a line trace. So you'll fire, and you'll know ahead of time, so you don't get, you don't have all this problem. Why am I not hitting the same thing? You need to go to where it's green. Then yeah, I got a good shot, or I got a shot here. So you could set it. So let's say you get this situation right here. You're gonna make a good headshot here, and your crosshair's telling you you're not in line with the crosshair, but that's okay. You might say, okay, I want it to turn red. I mean, that's might be something we do later on. So we don't need the debug lines on at the moment, but it is good to play around with this and see what situation it would turn red and all that stuff, and debug it properly. And just a word to note here in this situation, these walls are scaled, and when you scale something, it causes things to be a little off sometimes. So if you were just checking points, sometimes these walls won't register vector points. So if you're using vector points instead of the object that I used to check, it'll be off, and that threw me off for a good minute. Like I was like, well, why isn't things rendering right? These walls sometimes will just not return data, and it's because I assume what's happened here is that the walls have been scaled. So anyway, don't trust these walls, don't trust the floors. You kind of got to go off of objects that are here. So there is a scenario I noticed where if you're shooting, if you're like, I can't remember how I set it up, but I was shooting at this stair from two different angles, and the crosshairs weren't lined up, but it was still green, and I was like, whoa, hey, what's going on? I thought I programmed this so if it had different targets. Well, it was because, remember, I said if the object's big enough, you could be, your crosshair and your actual shot can look different, but you're still shooting the same thing. So I'm trying to remember how I had that. Maybe it was, yes, this is the scenario. So look at this. So why is your crosshair green? Well, it's because where the crosshair at is technically the same component as where the stair, or not the stairs, but the ramp is at. It's the same thing. So you're like, well, that sucks. Well, what if somebody, I'm trying to shoot a target? Well, guess what? The target will be something different. So in that condition, then it would gray out and say, you guys, you're shooting the ramp when you're trying to shoot a barrel. So your world will be filled with multiple things when it gets all said and done. So that would be a scenario wherein this problem would be fixed. So anyway, just in case anybody's wondering, those line traces you can turn off and experiment on your own to see how those would work out. So I'm just going to go ahead and check my board over here. I think the next tutorial we can go ahead and make the laser. And once again, you don't have to have a laser. I'm just trying to show you, number one, it's interesting to know how to do it. But also it's the reference for what your projectile is going to hit. So I'll see you guys on the next tutorial.